Exclusive hot new
High School Holla.
Here it comes.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Holla, Chicago! Steven Spoon Ramsey welcoming everyone from Chicago and all surrounding areas to the best show in Chicago for high school sports, the H2S2 High School Holla Sports Show, and our Diva Sports Edition. We are super excited, I'm telling you today, to talk about a sport that very seldom mentioned when you talk about high school sports, and many of us might not know much about it because we only play it at picnics or maybe at family events, but it is really a very competitive sport. It's the sport of badminton. And here to tell us more about the sport itself, who better to have than the coach and the players of the Chicago Public League City Championship team, Payton Grizzlies. Give yourself a hand. Yeah, we got the Grizzlies in the house.
Oh my gosh.
I'm telling you, I'm ready to have some fun with these guys. Payton Grizzlies head coach Seth Davis is with us, along with the city badminton champion herself, Vicky, Chen, and the runner-up Skye Wang as our special guest on this Diva Sports Edition. Thank you guys for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you guys on. And Coach, now Coach, as I mentioned earlier in the intro, many people may not have known that the sport of badminton is very competitive on a high school level. How long have you been the Payton Grizzly coach?
Believe it or not, it's been a really long, about 4 weeks. You know, with COVID, everything changed, and Payton had another coach that has definitely helped season, you know, this varsity team. And I know Skye and Vicky will tell you more about him. His name's JP, but apparently he was, I think, in Canada, couldn't make it back to the United States to help coach the season. And I think about a week into the season, or a week and a half into the season, one of the PE teachers at Payton, who normally coaches the soccer team, soccer season was coming up, and Coach Esco, he couldn't coach both soccer and badminton at the same time. And I know soccer is his baby. And so he asked me if I could step in, and I wanted to definitely make sure that everybody who was working so hard and also, like, you know, just had their life kind of turned upside down because of COVID, just had the chance to play and get to, you know, kind of get outside of their, you know, their prison that we're all sort of been in for like the last year. Randomly, I think one of the reasons Coach Esco felt so comfortable with me is because we went to the same high school together and we were on the same varsity soccer team. So I knew him very well, and I just started at Payton in December. So I'm a brand new teacher. And when I knew that he was working there, I haven't seen him for, like, I don't want to age myself, but 20 years, you know, 20 years. It's been a while. So, you know, when he asked me to do it, I was like, well, let me check my schedule. And so I was able to do it.
That's awesome. And I'm excited to talk about and talk to these two young ladies you have with us. Tell us about these two young ladies who have competed on the highest level of city badminton.
Well, you're in for a treat. You know, I've only known Skye and Vicky for a very short amount of time, but I can tell that they are very hardworking, and not just hardworking and you know, like to support our team camaraderie, but they're also very kind, as are all the people on our Grizzly Payton badminton team. You know, one of the most impressive things to me throughout the whole season was when we were playing another team who, you know, was not nearly as skilled and who really, you know, had a lot of struggles just with like learning how to serve. The other teams often felt comfortable asking our team for like, how do you do that? And they'd be happy to share. And you know, even during a match, they might be playing somebody. Like I remember Vicky was playing somebody and she's like, you know, trying to like destroy this girl. But, you know, when it comes like to, you know, the sideline, she's like, wow, that girl was so nice. And I just like, you know, I love that. So yeah.
Well, let's meet our shining stars from the Payton Grizzlies badminton team. Vicky and Skye, welcome once again. I am so excited and stoked to talk to you guys. I want to start, let our people know, Vicky, start with you. What class do you represent, and how exciting is it being the city champion?
So I'm class of 2021, which means I am a graduating senior this year. Being the city champ this year was honestly amazing to be able to have a season, first of all, and then get to compete at such a high level during the season. Fun fact, we didn't even know we were going to have a like city championship until like 1 week before. So it's one of those like things where it was a little bit of a last minute planning, but we were still able to pull through and have a city championship this year, which was really nice to participate in.
I'm a junior, so I'm class of 2022. And honestly, badminton this year, even though it was like so weird because of COVID and everything, I thought it was like so great to have a season. So I'm really thankful to everyone who helped make it happen. So I'm really grateful to Coach Davis and to all the people behind the scenes. And city was really fun for me. Like I got to play against Vicky and she's incredibly good. So I guess I just had a lot of fun this year, even though we had to wear masks all the time, suffocation. But you know, yeah, it was fun for me.
Now, did both of you get to qualify and move towards state when the state offered its postseason?
So basically, to qualify for state in badminton, you have to be one of the top 4 singles players at sectionals, and I believe one of the top 2 doubles at sectionals. And so this year, I think Payton actually did really good. Like we had our first doubles win at sectionals, and then our first like so many things at sectionals. And out of the 4 players, I think there was like 1 each from every school, and I was qualified for state through playing in sectionals. So that was basically how I got entered into state.
How tough was it for you guys to prepare for the season and especially for the city playoffs, and then get the girls ready for state when we had so many restrictions due to the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, you know, each of the schools has their own code requiring, you know, the different protocols to get ready for COVID, or, you know, when we're dealing with COVID and going into the building. So, you know, every day, you know, students are required, and teachers and coaches are required to fill out a sort of a questionnaire, a survey, based off of like, you know, have you been around anybody in the last 14 days with COVID? Have you traveled out of the country? Do you have a temperature, etc.? And then we also would do temperature checks. And, you know, I had heard of other sports teams who, you know, they had to cancel their seasons because they found out a player on their team got COVID. Fortunately for us, like none of our players got COVID or had COVID. And, you know, also, you know, for the most part, badminton is, you know, people are spread out a little bit more, which is helpful, kind of like tennis.
So Vicky and Skye, I want to be educated now. Teach me about the difference between badminton and tennis. What's the biggest differences between the two sports?
Okay, so for me, I felt like the biggest difference is like badminton is a lot faster than tennis because the shuttle is like super light. You can hit it like a lot harder, even though it seems slower. It's kind of like contradictory in that sense. Like tennis matches can usually last for like 3 hours, but the maximum I see for like pro matches are like 1 hour and 30 minutes. So it's super intense, super hardcore. And I guess besides like just the pace of matches, also like technique is super different because for tennis, it's like the ball bounces, I guess. And badminton obviously has a shuttle that if it touches the court, it's kind of out. So it's like a variety of like different techniques that play into badminton versus tennis. So,
but I also wanted to talk a little bit or expand on the difference between tennis and badminton too. And I believe that one of the most important parts is in tennis, you hold the racket with both hands and you kind of like swing with both of your entire body, basically. And you kind of need to because the racket is so heavy. But in badminton, the racket is light and you swing with one arm or one hand. You only use your dominant hand to hold it. The second difference I was going to talk about was in badminton, you snap your wrist a lot. So snapping your wrist essentially helps the birdie go down and really fast so that you can smash it into the other opponent's court. And in tennis, if you were to try that, you could possibly break your wrist because of the weight of the ball and the racket. So if you're a player that plays both badminton and tennis, it is a little bit hard to transfer between these two sports because of the way you use your wrist in each of the sports. But Isabel seems to like do that fine, but that's also one of the major differences that I want to note.
Can you also talk about the scoring? How is the scoring different in tennis versus bad? Like I know in tennis, it's like they do love 15, love 30, love 40, and that's like
Coach stole my question because I was just about to ask that. No, it's a great question because we're learning here about badminton.
Best out of 3 games. So each game will go up to 21 points. So whoever reaches 21 points first will win. And if it's like tied, like 20 to 20, you'll play until maximum 30 points and you have to win by 2 points. So you do that if you win 2 of those games, I guess. You win the entire thing.
But nowadays, like we have completely switched to a new method of scoring, which is almost exactly similar to volleyball, essentially. It's basically whoever wins the shot or the opponent messes up. Like if you win the point, you get the point. And then you just keep adding up your points and whoever gets to 21 first, essentially just is the winner of the match. And if you have a tie at like 20, 21, 21, 21, like Skye said, somewhere near there, you have to win by 2 points. So a possible score could be 23, 21 or 25, 23. Once you get to 30, that's the cap. And it's just like a sudden death. Whoever gets to 30 first would be the winner.
Now, I want you guys to take me back to the city championship. You two played one another in the city championship. How hard was it to play one another for the city championship? And Coach, who were you? No, I'm not going to ask who you were rooting for. You were rooting for Payton, I know. But how hard was it?
What's interesting is that me and Skye played together a lot outside of badminton too. So it was one of those things where it's like meeting a familiar friend, but this time you have to compete against this familiar friend. So it was almost similar to one of the matches we just normally do outside of school, and super friendly and everything. But it was more difficult than most of the matches that I've played against with other schools or other teammates, because Skye is definitely like very good at badminton, like a worthy opponent. So the city championship was, I'd say, definitely a higher level.
Vicky's definitely a tough opponent to play against. She's really good. Like I think she started playing even before me, so she's had way more practice than I have. And I just thought the match was like fun. I guess it's good practice for me. And next year I'll win because she won't be here.
I like that.
But cut that out, please.
But you are glad that your teammate won. Right?
Yeah.
As a senior, Vicky gets to go out on top, hold the crown as badminton city champion. But Coach, I gotta ask you as well. I mean, Payton was in a win-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, we were really excited that it was a win-win situation. We had, I think the city championship was like 2 days long. And so apparently, in previous years when they normally play the city championship, there's lots of people in the stands and lots of fans there. And, because of COVID, it was really quiet. It was basically, Vicky and Skye, and then we're placing against two other opponents from Northside College Prep. And, so it was just a much more intimate experience. And so I was just hoping that everybody played their best game. I wasn't really rooting for, one person or another. I am happy that, as a senior Vicky, goes out and win. And at the same time, I just want, Skye to play her best game too. It was really interesting going into sectionals and into state, because I think a huge component is this competitive aspect and how people get in their head about, the whole experience. And so, as happy as I was that we took first and second place in the city championship, I really also enjoyed going to sectionals with our team because it just felt like a real bonding experience. And, we were all there to support each other's matches and things like that.
Coach, I want to ask Vicky and Skye, you brought up a good point. Coach said with not having fans there to create an atmosphere that you might have played in the past, was that distracting at all?
Just a quick bit of context. So to get to the finals for city, there was the semifinals, and then it was between Skye and Isabel again from Payton. So Payton versus Payton again. And that was probably the most intense match of the season I've ever seen. And the funny thing is, it was so quiet. You could hear a pin drop. And it was a little bit hard to cheer too, because it was Payton versus Payton. So I didn't know who to cheer for. But it's definitely interesting. I feel like anyways, when you're playing badminton, you kind of get into the zone and you forget whether there's other people there or not. But one thing is that usually when you do have a team there, you have people that are giving you a little bit of cheering when you're done with the 1 point. So I remember Coach Davis did that a lot for us when we were playing, giving us little comments you got it, or place it in the back, or just fight, keep going. Those are always really helpful.
Now, I also wanted to find out too, what's the biggest thing that you girls as athletes would want to tell people about the sport of badminton? What's the one thing that people should know about this sport to make it more support, that they should get their support behind it?
I would say firstly that badminton is one of the easiest sports you can get into, and it is one of the easiest sports to play. You literally just need your racket, a shuttle, and a net. And sometimes you can play even without a net. We play in our school atrium during lunch sometimes, and it's honestly really fun. People walking by want to try, so we give them a chance, and they hit it up, and it's all super easy. It's just honestly such a fun sport, and it's a sport that is easy to start, so everyone can literally play it.
And, it is easy to get into, but I think there's kind of this idea that badminton is just a really easy sport. So I think or that it's just super easy and it's not worth playing. But I think it's definitely worth playing. It actually gets your heart rate up a lot. It's super intense. You move around the court and everything. So I think it's really easy to get into it, and it's fun for those who want to try it. But it's also a serious competitive sport that is actually really good for you, because it does a lot of things for you. Instead of just running straight, you're moving over the court, lunging for things, hitting things with your arm. So I have one really buff arm and one really weak arm, but yeah, I think badminton is just a really fun sport to play. So definitely try if you can, I guess, is what I would say.
Coach, what are people missing?
Well, I think badminton is really fun. You can play singles, you can play doubles. It's like Vicky and Skye were saying, it's a sport that's easy to get into, but the better you are, the more competitive it can get. And I mean, when we went to state, like, people were really competitive. I mean, people can like look one way and hit the badminton the other way. There are all types of like trick shots and things like that. But it's a fun sport that your size doesn't always matter. Like, you don't have to be over 6 feet tall to be an awesome badminton player. And I think that I was learning this season that even sometimes a really tall person, that could be their disadvantage. So there's just people of all sizes can get into badminton.
Each of you, give me your best memory from this season. What's your best memory from the season?
When I started coaching the team, I wanted to make a good impression. And when we went to play Mather High School, I drove out there. I got there early. And when I get to the school and I'm trying to talk to the security guard to show them my, COVID, to let them know that, like, oh, I don't, I'm going through the COVID screener. They're like, yeah, your team isn't here. The whole team was back at Walter Payton. I was the only person from the team at a different high school, and I'm the coach. What does that say about me?
It's not really a favorite memory, but I just really enjoy talking with everyone again. I feel like COVID has really like isolated all of us. So I just really enjoyed all my practices, getting to talk to people and like talking to more people than I normally would, just like not talking to the same person I would talk to all the time. Like, I got to play with more people this year, and I'm really happy with like how our season turned out, even though it was super weird with COVID and stuff. So I guess my favorite memory, kind of cringy, is just like hanging out with everyone and playing, practicing together. So that was
my memory isn't going to be as like grand and dramatic as maybe other seasons would have been. But I would say one of my favorite memories would be one of our team bonding moments, which was when we decided to give everyone a vegetable, and they would tell you like what vegetable they think they were. So, and we got a whole bunch of vegetables ranging from corn to potato to leek. I didn't even know that was a vegetable, but apparently that is. And so it was really interesting to find out what kinds of vegetables people thought they would be. And then after that vegetable activity, we did like a partnership based on your partner vegetable, or whoever picked the same vegetable as you. So yeah.
How many trophies does Payton Grizzlies have?
We can also ask how many championships has Vicky won?
Come on, Vicky, talk about it.
I think we tied with Northside the first year with city championships. Sophomore year, or my second year of Payton Badminton team, we won the city championship. And then the third year was COVID, so we didn't have a season, unfortunately. And then this year, we also won the city championships. So you could say we're undefeated. You definitely could say that at the city championships, we've been undefeated. So I honestly think Payton's badminton team is just so great.
Coach Davis, I want to give you an opportunity to speak to the parents, speak to the community. How can people help support the sport of badminton, especially at the high school level?
I think, encouraging your children to get involved in sports, but particularly badminton. There's great camaraderie, amazing sportsmanship. Every school that we competed against had really good sportsmanship. There's just so many life lessons to learn when there's good sportsmanship.
Coach Davis, Vicky, Skye, we always offer our guests on the H2S2 show an opportunity to give what we call big hollers, to holler out to all of your family, your friends, and the Payton Grizzlies supporters that have supported this badminton team. Who would you like to give big hollers out to?
I'm going to give big hollers out to the players on our varsity team. Everybody's super awesome and kind and competitive, and I also want us to give a shout out to Coach Esco and our athletic director, Coach Nunnery.
A big holla out to my fellow teammates who honestly made this season so fun, even though it was definitely a modified season. We worked together and to think of new drills and implement those, and it was a lot of figuring stuff out, and it was definitely the team that made things so much easier and so much fun. And then also one more holla to my family or my parents for driving me to a lot of these badminton clubs that I play at, which can be pretty far, 30 to 40 minutes away. So
I wanted to holler out to my parents for just supporting me throughout this. To JP, who was our coach from last year, I think we're incredibly lucky that he was able to coach us, because that's probably why we are as good as we are. Also, I like to thank Vicky for driving me to the badminton gyms and the person who gave snacks at sectionals. I'm very thankful to them. I was very hungry.
One more thing is a holla to Coach Davis. He definitely jumped in halfway through the season, and definitely was a little bit confusing for him for sure. But thank you to you for all of your work, even though you definitely didn't have as much knowledge about what was going on. You were honestly so helpful and so encouraging. When I was playing too, with you writing down all these notes on your phone app so that you can help me during the breaks. Thank you for being such a good coach for our team.
That's very sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's truly, truly awesome. Well, Coach Seth Davis, thank you, and Vicky and Skye for joining us and educating us on the sport of badminton and being a part of as a special guest on the Diva Sports edition of the H2S2 show. It's been fun. You guys were great.
Thanks so much, Spoon, for having us. We really appreciate it. And we hope, next year you'll even come out to our matches. You'll see Skye win the city championship. You'll see Vicky come visit the school and see another plaque on our wall, and then be content about that.
I'm there. I am there. We would like to thank the coaches and all of our shining stars of the game who joined us this week. Remember, you can catch the H2S2 High School Holla Sports Show on all of our social media sites. That's YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also subscribe to the H2S2 podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud simply by searching Urban Fieldhouse Media. Go to our website at urbanfieldhousemedia.com, where you can listen to some past shows and segments on the Urban Fieldhouse Media website. Always remember, God loves you, and we do too. I'm Steven Spoon Ramsey saying, holla at you next week on the H2S2 High School Holla Sports Show.
High School Holla.